Hello world, welcome back to Razor RC. It's time to do the four-wheel drive comparison review of 2019. And so what I've assembled in front of us are three of my four-wheel drive buggies. These represent the three American brands. On the left, we have the TLR 224 2.0, last of the belt drives. Kind of a dying breed here in the four-wheel drive class, and certainly harkens back to its legacy predecessor, the double X4. In the middle, we have the Tekno EB410. Again, an unusual design, forward-mounted electronics, a little bit of like an 8th scale looking layout, shocks, etc. And then on the right-hand side, we have the brand new Team Associated B74, which got released a few months ago. It's Team Associated's entry in the four-wheel drive class. They've had a lot of success in this class at the world level, at the national level, and this represents the newest, greatest, and best four-wheel drive buggy from Team Associated. So I'm going to review these three vehicles in a bunch of different categories. I'm going to rank them from third to first. I also have full reviews of each of these. Go check those out if you want to know more about these buggies in depth, but today I'm just going to rank them in a bunch of categories, and then at the end provide my conclusion on which I think is the best four-wheel drive buggy of 2019. Now obviously I do not have every single four-wheel drive buggy out there. There's the Hot Bodies, the Yokomo, the Kyosho, the X-Ray, the PB Racing, a lot of different four-wheel drive buggies out there. I have neither the time nor the money to purchase all those vehicles, but these are all my own personal vehicles that I purchased. They were not for free, not sponsored products or anything. I picked them up myself. The other thing I want to mention is that this is obviously just my own opinion. Your driving style, your experiences, your level of sponsorship probably will influence your own opinion. So this is just what I think about these buggies. So yeah, let's get into the review and comparison. Okay, so let's talk about these buggies. I'm going to pop off the bodies real quick. TLR 224 2.0, Tekno EB410, and then the Team Associated B74. Now, electronics wise, they're not exactly put together exactly the same, a little bit different electronics package. For the most part, I'm running Savox servos and Sandwell receivers, Hobby Wing ESCs, and different motors, kind of for different classes. But yeah, anyways, this is what they look like under the hood. So the first category I want to talk about is the build. That refers to how well the kit was put together, how good the instructions were, any issues I ran into. And so in third place, I am actually going to pick the Tekno EB410. If you've seen my review of this kit, I did have some issues. Number one, the electronics layout is kind of annoying. Difficult to kind of cram everything there up front. As you can see, all the electronics are there, the receiver, ESC, motor, all there on the right hand side, and then the battery and the servo on the left. But this whole back end side is completely empty. It's hard to kind of wire everything together, be able to get to access to all the individual plugs and cables and stuff, and still have it sort of clean and decent looking. So this is an okay job, you know, not bad considering how cramped it is, but that's one of the issues I had with the build. Secondly, you know, all the parts obviously come in parts trees. The body's not pre-cut, the wing's not pre-cut. It also does not include any wheels. And the last thing I had, kind of the problem I had with this, was the shock caps are quite annoying. The plastic shock caps, difficult to thread on. I think they did fix that to make it a little bit better in later releases, but still one of the difficulty areas I had on the EB410. So for that reason, I am picking the Tekno actually third in this comparison. Second up, I'm going to pick the Team Associated B74. Pretty good build overall. Definitely one of the better Team Associated kits. The parts fit together nicely. Didn't have to ream or do any sort of fitment on the arms or hubs or anything like that. It all fit together really nicely. But again, with Team Associated, you got to cut parts off part trees. The bags are not super well organized. Sometimes you have leftover parts, especially like bearings and stuff. No wheels, bodies are not pre-cut. So yeah, in this category, not a bad build overall. Actually a very good build, but I'm going to pick that second. That obviously leaves the TLR 224 2.0 as my favorite in the build category. Comes with all the parts pre-cut and bagged in individually labeled bags where you just go one step at a time, one bag at a time. Once you're done with the bag, you're done with that step. Comes with wheels, pre-cut body, pre-cut wing. I mean, just a really nice build overall. It is kind of a complicated build, certainly with all the belts and stuff. Definitely a bit unusual, but I think it actually builds definitely the best. So I'm going to pick this as the winner in the build category. Moving on to the design, and so these buggies are all completely different designs, which makes them kind of cool to look at and compare. On the left, you've got the TLR 224 2.0 three-belt system. Really harkens back to the XX4, which is like a 20-year-old design at this point. I mean, this is the 2.0 version of this kit. The 1.0 is surprisingly even a little bit worse, a little bit harder to maintain. But the 2.0, it's better, but still a really old design overall. Really more of like a dirt style buggy. Doesn't have all the adjustments that you would expect from a modern kit. Does not have the adjustable axle heights, adjustable diffs. So overall, just, you know, even like the rear shocks mounting onto the rear arms, they typically go on the back. You have to do some modifications to get them on the front of the rear arm. So overall, I think the design is quite dated, really designed for kind of older style, loose, loamy dirt. Not quite as suitable for high grip, high traction AstroTurf carpet, even high bite clay. You can't really get down to those super low ride heights quite as easily. Also, probably the heaviest buggy among all three. Maybe not the best for 13.5 classes. I think the belts may be a little bit less efficient also than some of these center drive shaft options. So overall, I'm going to pick the 224 2.0 in third place in the design category. Second place is going to be the buggy in the middle, the Tekno EB410. Pretty good offering overall. Still does not quite have all the adjustments of the more modern buggies, the adjustable diff heights, adjustable axle heights. Looks like they kind of designed it for dirt. You can get lower ride heights, but you know, your arm angles and stuff are going to be a little bit off. They do have some nice touches, kind of like the cable management and stuff. I think is a little bit better. They kind of have these recessed shock standoffs that allow you to unscrew the nuts and stuff without having the shock standoff spin in front of you. So easily accessible diffs. Pretty good overall, but just missing a couple things that I think some of the newer buggies actually have. So that is second place, which clearly leaves the Team Associated in number one for the design category. All the adjustments you would expect from a modern buggy: adjustable diff heights, adjustable axle heights, really low ride heights that you can get to, adjustable stiffeners down the center, adjustable like carbon pieces that you can remove to get adjustable flex. So all the normal adjustments, or really all the modern adjustments you would expect from a buggy. It's got the center diff option, the center slipper option. Just a really nice buggy overall. Easy to work on. The electronics are easily accessible. Everything's right there for you to work on. The diffs are really easy to get out, the center, the front and rear diffs. So overall, just a really nice design. A lot of adjustments, easy to work on, and certainly I think my pick in the design category. So the most important category is performance. How do these buggies drive? Which one is the best? They all definitely have a different style and way they put down the power, the way they drive. The 224 2.0 is actually an excellent and awesome running buggy. The precision of the throttle is insane. I think the belts really give you a little more positive feedback on the actual application of throttle, the braking, everything. It's super precise, super smooth, lays down the power really, really well. Downsides of this are it's a little bit unforgiving to drive. It's hard to get down to the super low ride heights that you might want on higher traction surfaces. It doesn't land particularly well either. I think that's the biggest issue in the way it drives. If you don't land on all fours, it can be quite unforgiving, tend to sort of roll over, traction roll. I don't know if it's the slipper or the belt drive system or what, but it's really just not a happy buggy unless you're learning it really, really well. So in this category in performance, I'm actually going to pick the 224 in third place. I think some improvements would be nice in the next version of this buggy if they had a center diff option, some more adjustments to get lower ride heights. But overall, I think on the performance category, this is in third place. So in second place in the performance category, I'm going to pick the Tekno EB410. It's a kind of a toss-up between how this drives and The other two, they're all actually drive really well. Just certain categories where I think the buggies drive a little bit better. So the Tekno, I noticed with that forward mounted electronics, a lot of the weight in the front end, it does kind of transfer weight a lot more than these other two. These other two kind of stay a little more stable, a little more flat, a little more neutral as you're entering and exiting corner. This one, I feel like there's a little bit more weight shift. So a little more, I guess, like point and shoot. You kind of like slam it into the corner, turn it, it turns on a dime, and then you just kind of rip out of there. But if you like kind of more smooth arcing type behavior, these other two buggies I think drive that way. It accelerates and brakes quite well. Also lands like super plush. These big 13mm shocks do an excellent job on landing. Drivetrain is pretty free overall, so not a bad option for 13.5 racing, I think. So pretty good performance overall, but I don't think it's the best buggy in this category. That leaves the Team Associated B74 as my winner in the performance category. Drives super smooth, very easy and forgiving, pretty much very predictable, consistent, jumps and lands really well, accelerates quite nicely as well. So the drivetrain is also very free on this buggy. If you're running 13.5, I think you'll get a little more acceleration, a little more pop out of this drivetrain than the other two. So overall, just a really nice driving buggy. I mean, they do drive all a little bit different, so depending on how you like to steer your vehicle, you may find one vehicle more to your liking than the others. But for me, I think the B74 is something that anybody could pick up, drive, throw down, and be very comfortable and familiar and easy to drive overall. So my pick of performance is the B74. So four-wheel drive buggies tend to have a bit of a weakness, and that is durability. There's not a lot of protection obviously on these thin lightweight bodies, just a minimal bumper in the front. Also the kick up on these arms are like super flat, so when you ram into something, all those forces get applied to those arms. They don't really bend back like they would on a two-wheel drive buggy, and they just kind of tend to try to shear off. So durability is always a concern in four-wheel drive buggy. They're super capable, but tend to be a little more fragile. And in these three buggies case, let's rank the durability. I think in third place, I'm going to pick the TLR 22.4 2.0. Not a bad buggy overall, but it does have one fatal flaw, and that is this plastic hinge pin brace underneath. When you take a major hit to a front wheel, that thing tends to kind of twist in its setting, and your trim gets knocked out of place quite easily. Not a whole lot of good solutions for that. I mean, I generally stock up 3 or 4 of these. Exotech does make an aluminum version, which I actually purchased, have not installed, but that really is the major weakness of this vehicle. The belts also obviously are not going to wear quite as well as the metal drive shaft, so do need to get replaced periodically. So for that reason, I'm going to pick the TLR 22.4 2.0 as third in the durability category. In second place, the Tekno EB410. Not a bad buggy. Again, in terms of durability, Tekno is known for being super tough, super durable vehicles. I think this is one of the weaker ones in their offering, in their lineup. The ET410, again, has sort of the same issues because they have the same basic design. Major weaknesses of this are that the front hinge pins, front arms, and pills tend to bow out or oval or even break on major collisions. Some people have broken the chassis here underneath or have broken the bulkheads and stuff. I haven't really experienced that, but I have bent probably 4 or 5 different hinge pins on the front end, so those are a little bit of a weak point. Now they did update those, so they have the super hard hinge pins, but they do still bend occasionally in my opinion, and the arms also tend to go with them. When you bend one of those hinge pins, the pills tend to go, the arms tend to get ovaled out, and so for that reason I'm going to pick the EB410. It still has a couple of little weak spots, nothing major, but I do break things occasionally on my EB410. So that means that the Team Associated B74 is going to be the winner in the durability category. The only thing I've broken is a rear ball cup and bent a rear hinge pin. Overall, I think the design is super tough. They got really thick, really beefy shock towers, a lot of carbon fiber sprinkled throughout, a lot of aluminum as well. The only thing I've broken is a rear ball cup and bent a turnbuckle, but it's proven to be super durable overall. Seems like probably the most durable four-wheel drive that Team Associated has ever ever produced. And I do think among these three, this is the most durable. Now, I have to say I've owned these other two a lot longer than I have my B74, obviously, because this just came out a couple months ago. Had the TLR for a couple years, and the Tekno also for close to 2 years. So it is possible that maybe this has some weak points that haven't borne out through testing, but overall, I do feel like this is the most durable four-wheel drive buggy. Support and maintenance is an important category. Is it easy to get parts? Can you get parts at your local hobby shop or local track? Are the buggies easy to work on? These are very complicated machines with the four-wheel drive and in some cases fairly complex drivetrains. So in the maintenance category and support, I'm actually going to pick the TLR in third place. This buggy is pretty much a nightmare to work on. The interconnected belts is just really hard to get to. Even the servo is a pain to get to. It's being here in the middle. The spur is a pain to get to. I have a video showing how long and how difficult it is actually to change a spur gear on this thing. So the maintenance is quite troublesome. Support is pretty good. The TLR is probably the second most supported brand here in the United States. Obviously that's going to be different in Japan, Europe, or wherever you may live. But support is pretty good on the TLR side. In second place, I'm going to pick the Tekno EB410. Tekno is a little bit of a smaller company, fewer setup sheets, fewer team drivers. Not every track and store is going to carry parts from Tekno. They do have this really nice program where they give you a discount on broken parts, so that's good to see. Definitely take advantage of that. The kit itself is fairly easy to work on, except for the electronics. I think the diff, center diff, front and rear is all pretty easy to work on. Shocks are easy to get to, so that's not really a problem. But just kind of from the support side, a little bit harder to get stuff for the Tekno. And that leaves the Team Associated B74 as the winner in the support and maintenance category. Support-wise, they are number one. It is easiest to get Team Associated parts. It is easiest to get Team Associated setup sheets, probably more setup sheets than you know what to do with. On the maintenance side, I think this is the easiest buggy to work on. Really easy to get to all the diffs, electronics, everything is super nice and clean and easy to work on. So I do enjoy that part of the buggy. So in the sport and maintenance category, I think Team Associated is number one. The TLR 224 2.0 sells for $350 at the time of this video. Quite a deal in the four-wheel drive class. The Tekno sells for $400 and the B74 sells for $520 here in the US. This comes with a slipper, no center diff option. The Tekno comes with a center diff with a slipper option, and the B74 comes with a slipper with a center diff option. But clearly this is the most expensive of the three. I think in the value category, this is worst. It's not just that it's more expensive, but you know, again, there are spots where they save some money with the parts on parts trees, no wheels, no pre-cut body. So overall, I feel like this is the most expensive vehicle and you kind of get the least amount in the box. In second place, I am going to pick the Tekno EB410. Pretty good value overall. $400 is still on the low side for sure in the four-wheel drive class. Again, no wheels, parts come on parts trees. You do have to cut the body, etc. So again, missing a little bit of value as compared to the TLR, and that's why I'm picking it second. TLR, again, pre-cut body, pre-cut parts and bags put together really nicely, comes with wheels. Just overall really good value. Still has a lot of aluminum parts, probably the nicest shocks among the three. The Tekno is also very good, but these feel to be the smoothest to me. Machined pistons, machined spacers, aluminum shock caps. Just a lot of value in the box from TLR, so I'm going to pick this as the winner in the value class. So final thoughts on these three four-wheel drive buggies. Which one do I think is best? Which one do I think is probably the one to avoid? In third place, I'm going to pick the TLR 224 2.0, which kind of breaks my heart a little bit because this is my favorite buggy, probably my favorite RC car of all time, but objectively speaking, this is outdated. I would not suggest people pick up this buggy at this time. It drives super smooth, and if you've never driven one, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not driving one. If you see someone driving one, ask if you can pick one up and pull the throttle a little bit and see how it runs, because it does drive amazingly awesome. The belts are super smooth, but I think in this day and age, a little bit antiquated, right? They can't handle quite as much power, require more maintenance, harder to get to. I think in this day and age, shaft drive, I hate to say it, is probably the way to go. And certainly this design is the most antiquated, the fewest adjustments, based on a very, very old design. So there's not a whole lot of reason to pick one of these up except for nostalgia purposes or just to run something different. I'm probably going to keep mine, even if they release a 3.0 version. I think this thing is awesome, but can't really recommend this in this time in 2019. Now, I hear they are working on a new one. They've always said they're working on a new one. We'll have to see when one actually gets released. Hopefully this year, 2019, it'd be cool to see a new four-wheel drive buggy from TLR. But at this point in time, to me, this is third place. In second place, I'm going to pick the Tekno EB410. Really good buggy overall. This is actually my winner in the comparison a couple of years ago. Still a good buggy, still drives really, really well. In terms of how they drive, it's a close tie between the B74 and the Tekno. They just drive differently. This one has a little more flex in the rear. It also kind of dives in there, turns, and then yanks out a little more point and shoot than I think the B74 does. But design-wise, a little bit lacking. They don't have all the adjustments of the newer buggies. A little bit harder to work on, a little bit worse support. So also on the durability side, I think this is definitely weaker than the B74. So there's really no area where I feel like the Tekno is actually better than the than the B74, maybe in the value category, but overall the way it drives, everything else, I think it's sort of second fiddle to the B74. And so in my case, I'm going to pick the Tekno EB410 as second. That leaves the B74 as the winner of the best four-wheel drive buggy of 2019. This is an amazing buggy, really has no weaknesses, full complement of adjustments, really good for 13.5 spec racing, a lot of tunability for high traction, low traction, just excellent out of the box. Just throw down the Dustin Evans setup if you're running on indoor clay, and I think you'll be really, really happy. It's super durable. Really the main downside to this buggy is that it is expensive. At $520, we're talking X-Ray, Yokomo, Kyosho price range. Quality probably is not quite as good as those other brands. So it is the most expensive, I think, buggy Team Associated has put out to date, and a little bit debatable on whether you're actually even getting that much value out of it. You will also have to buy a center diff if you're running on dirt. I think it drives significantly better with a center diff as opposed to slipper. So when you throw that in, you're talking $570. So it is quite expensive buggy, but if you can afford it, if you don't mind spending that much, I do think this is the best kit among all three. So yeah, that's my winner in the four-wheel drive buggy class of 2019. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notifications button, and look for more videos soon.